Hello friends, Tanya here with another video with Spellbinders products. I am featuring the Stitched Bright collection. This is a fun stitching die selection. We've got a background die, we've got the string lights, we've got stitched Starfilled background, the lights, and the tree. I have die cut all of these panels here, and you can see the stitching holes and the etched lines that help guide you with your stitching. I'm going to show you the stitching on all of these products, and I'm going to assemble them, and then I'm going to make 3 cards. This is going to be a really fun video. I have some DMC embroidery thread here. I've got 3 strands together. I did separate those to make sure that they weren't all twisty-turny. I'm using a piece of washi tape to secure that, and we're going to each of these top stitching holes has 2 corresponding bottom stitching holes, so it's kind of making a V shape. I'm going to go in slow or real time here instead of sped up. So I start in the top, coming up the top, then go down one of the 2 holes that correspond with that hole, then come back up next to that one on the bottom. So we're going down, next to it, up, and then back down at the top. And then I'll just continue that across the whole panel of tree section here. I was a slow convert to stitching on card projects, but it's actually quite relaxing. And you know, you don't actually have to use the stitching if you don't want to. With the embossed detail and the stitching holes, it adds a beautiful element to those die cuts with or without the stitching. I'm just finishing this section. There are 3 sections to this tree. 2 of them have this style of stitching, and by using this method, you have a little more clean background and it lays a little more flat than if you just went up the top, down the bottom, up the top, down the bottom, all the way across. Now this section is different. It does not have 2 corresponding small holes for separate top holes. There's 1 top hole and a bunch of smaller ones. So you're just going to do some radiating stitches from the top to the bottom. Now this element will need a little extra height behind it anyway once you layer everything up. I did add extra cardstock layers behind these to give them a little extra sturdiness. Now this is just 1 layer, but I'm going to back it with another layer here in a little bit. I've secured my ends with washi tape. You can use Scotch tape, whatever tape you want. Washi tape, I just have a lot of it in my stash, and you may too. I don't find that I use it as a decorative element most of the time, but it does work really well for securing dies and for securing threads and stuff on the back of my stitched elements. Now on the Christmas light or Christmas string light here, we've got 2 different kinds of bulbs here. We've got the more teardrop shaped, and we have a circle. I'm just going to stitch both of those for you so you can see how that's done. It's again just a radiating stitching pattern from the center. So I'm coming up from the center and going down one of the outer holes and just doing that all the way around. I do try to keep going from one hole to the next. And I cannot believe that that piece of thread was just exactly the right size. I just managed to get that back through the last hole. That is the more raindrop sized, or not sized, raindrop shaped light bulbs. And this one is a round one. We're just going to do the same thing. I've done this in I think I cut out 4 different colors of these bulbs. We've got pink, red, yellow, and green, I believe, is what I did. And I just stitched them with corresponding colors of thread. And I think one of them gets, I think the green one gets gold in addition to, because I don't think I had any green thread. I actually was doing the stitching at my secondary craft spot in the town that I work in, which you can always tell where I'm doing my crafting by the color of the background. When I'm at home, it's a gray craft mat, and when I am at my secondary spot, it is a clear craft mat over a black folding table, and there's more wiggle. Sorry, y'all. We're also going to do the stitch Starfilled background. Now, I am a cuckoo crazy person. I took a half sheet of cardstock, and I'm going to die cut this on the whole thing. I'm just realigning this. It is a repeating pattern, so it's very easy to slip that into the overlapping section and run that through the die cut machine. And there you have this pattern, the entire length of this piece of cardstock. You do not have to go through and pop up all of those little holes unless you're going to not stitch them. I am making a 5x7 card with this, and I did trim it down to about, I took the one size lower than 5x7 from the 5x7 matting dies, so it's just a little over 4 3/4 by 6 3/4, and I'm going to stitch this entire thing. I'm not going to make you watch the whole thing, but yeah, it did take me probably half an hour, 45 minutes to stitch all of it. So that means it would take you half hour to 20 minutes to stitch an A2 size panel, maybe. If you were going to do all the stitching. And I'm just starting on one side, and I'm doing the radiating star pattern all the way across. Just using, I think I only used one strand of the DMC thread for this, I believe. Either that or I used crochet thread. No, I'm pretty sure I used DMC because I don't have gold crochet thread at the secondary crafting site. I have it at home. Yeah. And you can see that's really easy, even with the partial star patterns, to do those. And that is the entire panel completed. As you can see, I made it home and completed it. Now we're going to assemble the light string, and then later we'll do the tree. I'm going to add a backer to each of these that I cut with just the solid die, solid shape die, because all of these have a solid shape die and a coordinating drop-in die to do the embossing and stitching holes. Just going to use my heavyweight block to apply pressure on that. And there's a little, what do you call this? The connector, the light bulb mechanism, whatever it plugs into. And I made that with some cardstock that I had applied the Simon Hurley lunar paste in slippery when wet to make my own metallic cardstock. I just applied it with my fingertip in a light layer that covered the cardstock. These are all of the pieces that I have cut out and assembled. And we're going to attach these to the string that die cut that comes with this die set. It is really cute. It's got these cute little loop-de-loos in it. And I'm just going to decide where I'm going to put these light bulbs. I guess I didn't have a green. I have red, yellow, pink, and blue. And I'm just trying to alternate these to break up the colors so they're in a nice pleasing pattern. And that is one of the strings of lights. I'm going to do 2 strings of light here. I'm not going to assemble the second one here. And now we have all of the pieces for the tree. We've got this beautiful star topper, and it has 3 different pieces. I think there are just 2. No, I think it is still 3 dies. I'm using some different metallic papers here. I've got the Simon Hurley lunar paste, and then I had a piece that I'd ink blended and spritzed with the Harvest Moon Distress Mica Stain Spray. Using my limited supplies stuff at the secondary crafting space. I am also adding this lovely detail to the bottom of the tree. This is all part of the die set, and it's very easy to assemble. It looks a little like a little intimidating, but it is not. I cut these pieces all from different colors of cardstock, depending on what part of the tree it was going to be. The main large pieces are all cut from the same green ink blended panel, and the other 2 are from some spritzed mica stain sprayed cardstock in a couple of shades of green. As delicate as these pieces look, they're actually pretty easy to glue together. You just add some dabs of glue, I assemble the chains of circles first, and then I attach those to the different layers. And it's the same for each layer, just a different number of those chains of circles, or the different length of chains of circles. And now I'm going to adhere these tree layers together. You of course can do that however you want, but I'm getting the chains of circles to just reach the top stitching holes. The little star is going to overlap the top stitching hole on the top of the tree. There is not a tree trunk included in this die set, but that's okay. I think it's really cute. I think this would make a really cute tag even, especially if you kept the bulk. No, even if you had it bulky and then had an additional tag to write on, or even just write on the back of it. All right, now that we have stitched and assembled all of those pieces, let's start making a card. I am going to take this piece of cardstock that I've cut to the same size as the stitched Starfilled background and adhere those together using the table and the bottom edges to make sure that they line up nicely so we don't have any overlap in odd spots. I let that dry, and now I'm going to adhere that to our card base, and I didn't add any extra cardstock behind this since it is already 2 layers thick and it has all of that stitching. Once I have that adhered to the card base, I'm pulling out some of the Cheers collection. We're going to use the glass from the Olive Martini die set. We're going to use the drippy goo from the Booze cocktail, only I cut it from some white glitter cardstock, so it's going to look like snow. And then we're using lots of elements from the Christmas cocktails die set. So many cute things. And I will try to link to the video I did for the happy hour or Cheers collection. I can't remember which they're calling it, where you see me assemble all of the pieces, and you can see some fun cards from that too. We're going to assemble our eggnog martini here. It doesn't have to be an alcoholic drink. I don't know about you, but I think it's fun to put non-alcoholic drinks in all of those fancy drink glasses. It just makes it a little more special and makes it a little more fun to drink out of a fun shaped glass. After layering up the different levels or colors of the drink, it's very easy to add glue on just 2 sides of that triangle and drop your glass die around it. This one's going to have a cute little Santa belt on it on the front, and this lines up just perfectly. It's so easy to assemble. Next, we're going to add some more elements to this really cute card or cup. Some of this white snow or ice dripping off of the edge of the glass. And we'll add our beautiful bouncy, flowy ribbon. I think the ribbons in these die sets are so pretty. I think there's one in each of the coordinating dies, the accessories dies. I thought about putting the hat on that side, but it just doesn't fit. It has to go on the right side of the glass, not the left. So we'll add some more of this drippy snow on the other side. I think that just looks so fun. Add the hat. You could skip the hat if you wanted, but I thought that went really well with the belt that's attached to the glass. You could leave the belt and the hat off and just have the white snow dripping off of it if this is too busy for you. I just thought it was fun to use all of these elements. There's these pine boughs and a mistletoe, or is that holly berries? Those are holly berries. And that lovely peppermint stick sticking out the top. So we've completed this gorgeous martini glass full of eggnog. And I took a piece of vellum and die cut that with another of the 5x7 matting layer dies. And I add a little extra cardstock behind the martini glass to give it a little more depth and dimension and a little more stability. We'll glue that to the vellum panel and add some cardstock behind the vellum to help give it this illusion of floating above the background panel. I did just roughly cut a triangle for under the top of the glass, and I used the coordinating or the drink glass die to die cut the bottom just so it would fit nicely on that really skinny stem. We'll adhere that to the front of our card base, just adding a little extra glue where things are needing a little extra help. Then we'll take a sentiment from the Cheers Sentiment Better Press plates. I chose the Have Yourself a Merry Little Cocktail, which fits perfectly on this card. Adding a couple layers of extra cardstock. I did glimmer hot foil this with polished brass foil and die cut it with the coordinating die. And then we'll adhere that to the card front, just nestling that in next to the bow. I'll fuss with that just a little bit to make sure the placement's just right and there's no glue sticking on that vellum anywhere it shouldn't be. For the inside, we're going to use one of the Christmas Sentiments dies, Better Press plates with coordinating die. And we're going to foil that with some polished brass foil on some black cardstock. This makes for a really nice dramatic sentiment. So polished brass and black is one of my favorite go-to combinations. We'll run that through, well, I'll place that on my hot platform. I do have to go put this back on the platform base. Let that heat up till the light turns green and then push the timer. When that timer is done, then I will run it through my die cut machine, my platinum. I use the full-size platinum because that's my favorite. I do have a platinum 6 at my secondary site, but I really use the biggest and the smallest platinums the most, the Scout and the full-size platinum. If you can afford to, and if you have the space, the biggest one is the best. You have a lot more flexibility with the dies that you're using and what positions you can do and lots of things. I just really love having the biggest one. Now that we have foiled and die cut this sentiment, which I believe says celebrate the season. Yes. We'll adhere that to the inside of the card, and then we'll take a few more elements from the Christmas Cocktails Cheers glasses accessory die set, which it works great all by itself. It doesn't actually even need to be used with the cocktails, with the Cheers other die sets. It's just, got lots of fun Christmassy elements to it. Well, I guess the belt for this martini glass is probably the only one that's fairly specific. I'm taking a couple of pine boughs here. I've got the holly berry bunch there, and we'll take one of the little branches of berries and add that between our pine boughs. I really like to add die cut elements to the inside of the card. It's a really easy way to add extra detail to the inside and make this all look very coordinated. So that's card number 1. We have 2 more cards. For our second card, we're going to use this copper plate Merry Christmas. Again, going to foil this on some black cardstock. I'm using some Aura foil this time. I've heated up my platform, have my layers all made, lay that plate side down, let that heat up and the timer go off, run it through my die cut machine, and have that beautiful sentiment. We're going to use the notched corner frames to die cut out this sentiment. Now, I haven't shown you the card I'm going to use this on yet, but I think if I had to do this again, I would do the foiling on a white card instead of black. I think it would have gone with the card better. Next, we're going to pull out some of these shimmer powders. I've got Golden Sparkles and Green Parade. I've had these in my stash for quite some time. Maybe you have them too. If not, you can use whatever method you want. You can do ink smushing. If you have other shimmer sprays, you can use Distress Mica Stain. What I'm looking for is an abstract green and gold background to kind of mimic a Christmas tree. That's all I'm going for. And this is going to be a backdrop for our strings of light. I've wet this piece of watercolor cardstock, and this is indeed watercolor cardstock, and then tapped on the shimmer powder, which is very intensely colored. Spritzed it with some water. It actually happened to be pearlized water, and I didn't quite have the look I was going for, and had all of this extra colored water on my desk. So I just kept adding it to the paper, drying, and adding some more. Next, we're going to use the Argyle Plaid embossing folder. This came out in July, I believe, with one of the Christmas collections. It's a really nice plaid. There's a larger plaid too. I'll show you that later. I'm using the Fern gilding polish, and there's a green glitz or glitzy green. I'll have it linked in the description box below in the visual list link, the complete visual list link, because I have way too many products in this list for it to fit in the description box for YouTube. I always include a link to the visual link list. It's easier to find the one you want when you can see a picture of it, and it will include a much longer list of products. If you use those affiliate links, I get a small percentage of that, and that always is helpful. That way I can keep doing more things for this channel. I use it to buy things like my microphone and paper and glue and the things that I don't get from the companies but are needed to do my videos. Now that we have our panel completed, I had already cut that down to a little smaller than 5 by 7. I believe it's close to 4 3/4 by 6 3/4. And we're adhering the 2 strings of lights that I created with the round lights, and I wasn't sure where I was going with this. This is definitely create as we go. We're also going to use the Christmas sentiments here again. I've already die cut this foiled and die cut this on black cardstock with polished brass glimmer foil. I have a couple extra layers of cardstock here to lay behind this to get a nice thick sturdy raised sentiment that fits in with all of the dimension that's already coming together on this panel. Once we have that all adhered together, I'm going to nestle that in amongst the different light bulbs in that string of lights, just using my liquid glue. Once that's nicely adhered, we're going to attach this to our card base. I didn't realize where I was going with this yet. I could have completed this a little. I could have added it a little later, but this works. I did show you that my cardstock base has speckles all over it from when I was doing the ink smushing on the card front, but I was covering it anyway, so no big deal. I can just use that cardstock anyway for a cardstock base. Now that I have this attached to the front of the card, I feel like it's not quite full enough. So I brought in the rest of the bulbs from my little container there. I thought I was going to make more than one card with this, but what the heck? Why not throw them all on this one card? I think it looks a lot better with the extra light bulbs in there filling in the background. Forgot one of them fell off when I picked it up. Next, we're going to add the sentiment that we did. And I had thought I was going to put it on the front of the card. So I have a couple pieces of extra cardstock on the back, but it's not so thick that it doesn't work on the inside of the card still, especially since we're going to be using a couple of the Christmas bulbs here to add extra detail to the inside. Just going to try and find a good spot for these. It might have been more fun if I had taken the green string and put that behind the Merry Christmas and attached those to the green string. Ideas for next time, right? All right, next we're going to use the Starshine background. I think that came in the same release as the Argyle Plaid back in July, and this doesn't make holes and it doesn't die cut anything. It presses this pattern into the cardstock like a piercing detail. I love dies that do this kind of thing, especially when they don't die cut the outline. Then I can use these to make a much bigger panel. Here I'm showing you that I nestled it into the design to overlap and then ran it through the die cut machine again. This is a piece of 5x7 watercolor paper, and I don't actually use the whole big thing. My design plan changed. I'm using the I didn't look at the name of this. This is one of the arch die sets. It's a little more whimsical. We're also going to use the 5x7 matting basics again. I have this piece of dark olive green cardstock I've die cut with the 5x7 matting die. We're going to use Holly Brand's Distress Mica Stain Spray. Just going to spritz that over the cardstock to give it some extra sparkle and shine. Love that stuff. When it's completely dry, I'm going to show you how I figure out what embossing folder I want to use. I'm going to do a bunch of auditioning. Here we've got the Playful Poinsettia, and that's what it looks like behind our main image. So I'm just going to move through these different embossing folders. There's the Argyle Plaid again. It would work great there. This combination would look great with so many different embossing folders. I mean, I'm going to show you a ton of them. This is Holly and Foliage. That came out last year with Yana's Smakula's line of, she had dies and embossing folders and coordinating stencils with a glimmer plate. Oh, gorgeous. This is the Dimensional Diamonds. That would look great. This is Tufted. This is one of those, the last two were some of the 3D embossing folders. Actually, several of these are. I think when I did this auditioning, I went through my embossing folders and looked for Christmas themed or possibly Christmas themed embossing folders that are still current. And all of these are. I'm showing you a ton. So if you've got these in your stash, you could use any of these. And if you don't have them and you're interested in them, there is a mega sale going on the Spellbinders website right now. It is their Fall Warehouse sale. Twice a year, they do this giant sale, and it's huge. So many amazing deals. A lot of these, every one that I clicked on today before I started this voiceover was at least 50% off. Some of them were for as little as $4.50. So if there's some here that you really want, you go straight over, use one of my links so you can use my affiliate links. I'd appreciate that very much. And go shopping at Spellbinders giant sale, and you'll find so many great deals. I'm still going through these embossing folders. There are so many. Have you seen any that you love yet? Take note. There's the Peppermint Stripe that came out last year too. There's some from this July's release. The Club Kits and Not. The Holly Flourish, I think, is from 2 years ago. Maybe more. So many. I think I had 20 folders pulled out. I am a little amazed. This is another Argyle. This is the Argyle Socks. It came out, I think, last year there was some gnome thing that it came out with. Oh, here's one of my favorites. This is Ski Lodge. It has that Fair Isle kind of pattern to it. And that came out with Joka's. They were like the Norwegian or Scandinavian dies. Here's Loops. That's very whimsical. That would work with a whole lot of different themes. And then what do we have next here? We have, this is another poinsettia. This is Scenic Poinsettias. It's got more of the foliage and some berries with it. That would be gorgeous. And then we have this, there's a couple of snowy ones. This is a sparkling snow. This is one of the Simon Hurley ones. The next one is a Simon Hurley also. I love snowfall. Snowflakes, leaves. Those are some of the things that I always have to get. And you can never have enough snowflake embossing folders because they're all just a little different. Now this one is from last year. I think it's from looks like October 2023 embossing 3D embossing folder of the year or a month. And that's what I chose to use, is the Flowering Christmas Tree Burst, I think it's called. So now that I've finally picked an embossing folder, we're going to use this green gilding polish and go over the entire image. So my background panel is a yellow green, kind of an olive green, and this paste or gilding polish is more of a blue toned green. And I think the contrast is quite flattering on this, especially since the tree it kind of leans a little more blue green than yellow green. So it ties all of the different parts of the tree together in with the background. Now that we have that panel completed, we're going to adhere that to a craft cardstock. So this is a Desert Storm 100-pound cardstock, card base. I've added extra cardstock behind the tree and behind this arched panel. And I've adhered that to the card base high enough that I can put a sentiment underneath the tree. I have a little bit, I did take a dimensional and put that under the star of the tree because it needed a little extra help. It needed a lot of extra layers, and it was easier to do that. Next, we're going to take the Comfort and Joy Glimmer Foil Plate and Coordinating Dies. So this is my quick and easy way to store them, and I have a bunch all pre-made, which is super handy when you're doing your Christmas creating or any of your creating. It's nice to be able to pull out your sentiments all foiled and all die cut, ready to just throw on your project. I did take the coordinating die and die cut some extra layers of the banner so I could layer this up for, of course, some extra dimension and sturdiness. I really like a nice sturdy die or die cut. So I put 2 layers of extra cardstock behind this sentiment, making sure there's no glue sticking out the edges, cleaning it up with the end of my pickup stick before we adhere that to the card. Adding a little bit of my Barely Art Precision Glue using the fine tip bottle. Still loving that. There's just something about that small bottle that makes things easier. Next I'm using, I think this is the Smoky Topaz gems from self-adhesive gems from Spellbinders. These are the Color Essential gems. And I decided that this tree needed a little more sparkle. So I'm adding one of these gems in the center of each of those chains of circles all the way down the tree. And I do use increasingly bigger gems on each level. So it's really handy that there are several different sizes on these sheets of gems. And I don't even mind that I'm using probably a third of the sheet of gems on this one card. Sometimes you just need to do that. And honestly, if you're anything like me, I have so many embellishments in my stash that there's no way I'm going to ever use them all up. So I need to start being really generous with them. I can use as many embellishments as my little heart desires. Next, I'm taking one of the shinier gems from the crystal mix. There's a smoky one and a really bright iridescent one to add to the center of the star. Now, I wanted some more of those stars, so I took some of that slippery when wet lunar paste and used my finger to apply it on this piece of cardstock. Let that dry. I think I even helped it with my heat tool a little bit. It does dry really fast though. Die cut some more of those stars. Next, we need a sentiment for the inside. We're going to use this glimmer foil. I believe this is one of the Yana sets from last year, maybe. I'll have it linked in the complete visual link list for sure, and it may be in actually in the individual products in the bottom. There's that beautiful sentiment. I love that swoopy handwriting style, and it's got a coordinating die. I did foil that with some, I think that was gold foil on the Desert Storm cardstock, which does a fantastic job in being foiled. You can also use the Portobello or the Dune cardstock from Spellbinders, which is beautiful also. I just don't happen to have a bunch of it in my stash because it sells out all the time because it's beautiful. I've adhered that to the inside of our card, and it blends in nicely since it's the same color cardstock as the card base. And then we'll add some of these pretty little stars that we created. I really enjoy making my own metallic paper. Then it matches with all of the different elements that I'm working with. And I know I'm not going to run out as long as I have the paste. And the paste is really affordable. Those little little jars are like $6, I think. So if you want to dip your toe in the lunar paste, go for it. I know there are several other similar products on the market, and if you've got those, give them a whirl too. So that was card number 3. I hope you had fun watching me do all these cards and play with all of those embossing folders. I hope you take a chance to run over to Spellbinders and hit that giant sale too. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me a comment. I always love to hear from you. Subscribe if you haven't done that. And again, check that description box below. There will be a complete visual list link that you can click on and see pictures. And there will be a brief list underneath all of that. Until next time, here are a couple more videos I thought you might enjoy. Bye-bye.